This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association. Your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley Smith.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Tuesday, May 14th of 2024. We're so glad you guys can join us for today's episode. In today's show, I talk with Kurt Long. He is the Vice President of Benson Hill. We had a conversation on a recent study that they put out showing the effectiveness of soybean meal as a feedstock for broiler chickens. A lot of great, interesting conversation there on how that adds value to the soybean market as well as the poultry market. But before we get into any of that, let's go ahead and take a look at the closing market analysis.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
At the end of another trading day in the ag marketplace, we're here with Ross Baldwin of agmarket.net. First off, Ross, what do we see going on in the grain markets today?
Hey, Riley, we saw a little bit of a turnaround here today. The grain markets were under pressure. The corn market was the nearby. They were really aggressively bear spreading the nearby corn market. July corn was around 5 cents lower on the day. The deferred months with Dees corn, it was around 2 cents lower. Over in soybeans, they were 5 to 7 lower. And the wheat market, both Chicago and KC wheat were both around 15 cents lower on the day.
And of course, we were just talking before we started this recording on how much rain had been going on across the state. And while there was a bit more rain, we had at least 2 workable days and a ton of planting got done. So at this point, we were kind of getting some early, late planting issues going on through the marketplace, a little bit of fears. Are we kind of seeing those go down a little bit, perhaps?
I think we are. We saw planting progress come in yesterday, 49%, which is what the trade was expecting. The 5-year average is 54%. So we're definitely below the 5-year average, and we're well below last year's pace. But like you said, the weather straightened out here over the weekend, and the planters have really been rolling aggressively across the Corn Belt. And, even though Iowa, Illinois, Nebraska have been running about 1 week behind, we're certainly making up progress. So, and we're going to make up a lot of ground here. So I do think we are going to see the delayed planting and the planting worries start to disappear here.
And then obviously the grains have been a big focus lately, but let's shift over to the livestock already and just talk about how they're sitting right now after the WASDE report and watching the grain markets move around.
The cattle market's really been consolidating to selling off a little bit here, but for the most part, we've just been in this range of consolidation following our recent sell-off. But today we certainly had a turnaround Tuesday across the cattle markets, and live cattle were 250 to 270 higher. The feeder cattle market, it was $4 to $4.50 higher. The hog markets, they weren't as wild as the cattle market, but they were 80 to 90 cents higher. But the cattle market, we've really seen the managed money crowd lighten up on their positions and fat cattle and feeder cattle, and they've really got those positions down to where I'm not as concerned about the downward pressure in the market. I do think, given where their positions are and what cash cattle have been doing and the tightness of the Fed market as we're going to really move forward here through May, June, July, I think the cattle market has a really good opportunity to put quite a bit more back on here. August fat cattle, we did stop below the 50 and the 100 day, the 50 days at 176.40, the 100 days at 176.80. Those are going to be key levels to close above, and I do think moving forward we are going to get above those and see I think we're going to see a sharp rally here moving forward in the cattle markets. And we've seen the box beef market's really been under pressure, kind of counter seasonal. We're in a seasonal window where you see more strength in that given peak demand season, and the cutout market started the week off with a bang also. It's put on about $9 between yesterday's close and this morning's close. So encouraging to see that as we are in peak demand now and following Mother's Day, that you are seeing some restocking of the shelves given what the cutout market's done here the last couple of days.
And then I think something else is interesting is we have a few weeks heading into the World Pork Expo, and this year or this time last year, we were looking at hog markets and really not in a great spot. Before we got to World Pork Expo, they did rally up there, so it wasn't as much of a complaint. But right now, we're sitting a lot better on those price levels. So, I mean, how are the hog markets sitting right now?
The hog market's been under pressure here over the last few weeks, but it's really stabilized. July hogs have been finding support down here around their 100-day moving average, which today was around $1.40. Resistance has been around their 9-day moving average, which is at 101.90. I think the hogs have sold off enough where they're finding strong support down here. And like you said, the hog market, I mean, from a fundamental perspective, it's in quite a bit better shape than it was a year ago. And so I think the hog market has a good shot to start rallying back, especially if the cattle market's going to rally. I mean, the two of them are at solid prices, and they're both going to help each other out. And one other point there on the hog market is the cutout's been firmer also. And it was firmer again this morning, and it's trading to some of the highest levels it's been at since last August, which backs into what you've been saying about the hog market feeling like it's in better shape, and it is in better shape. So I still think hog's got a good story moving forward.
All right, Ross, lots of great information today. For those of our listeners and our viewers who would like to get in touch and learn more from the folks at agmarket.net, how can they do that?
You can reach me at our office here in Anthon. Our number is 712-373-3276, or you can visit agmarket.net to see any of the ag market brokers.
All right, thanks again, and thanks as always for tuning in and giving us some great market analysis, and we look forward to visiting with you again soon, Ross.
Thanks for having me.
That again was Ross Baldwin of agmarket.net. We'll take a look at how the numbers close, courtesy of the market window at iowaagnet.com.
July corn down 5 even at 467.5. July soybeans down 5 even as well at 1214.5. July soybean meal up 680 at 373.30. July soybean oil down 175 at 43.40. Chicago wheat down 14.5 at 672.5. Kansas City hard red wheat down 16 3/4 at 683.25. Minneapolis spring wheat down 5 even at 733.25. July oats down 3 1/4 at 422 3/4. On the Merc, June live cattle up 260 at 178.17. May feeders up 390 at 243.27. June lean hogs up 85 cents at 98.32. June pork cutout went unchanged at 104.65. And May class 3 milk went unchanged as well at 18.71.
And that's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, I talk with Benson Hill Vice President Kurt Long. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. I had the chance recently to talk with the Vice President of Benson Hill, Kurt Long. We discussed a recent study that they put out showing the effectiveness of soybean meal as a feedstock for broiler chickens. And of course, like I said earlier, that adds value to both the soybean market as well as the poultry market. Of course, Benson Hill recently releasing some data from a study on the usage of soy meal in the diet of broilers and just seeing how that works and the added value from that. So first off, in that study being with Purdue Farms, first off, Kurt, just tell us a little bit about this study and what exactly you guys learned from it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Riley. Yeah, it was an incredibly important study for us, right? As we're a company that focuses on genetics that can provide value beyond the farm gate, right? So focusing on quality traits such as protein, right, or reducing things that the industry on the producer side doesn't like anti-nutrients and things of that sort, right? So as we look at the market landscape, we wanted to make sure that we were working with industry leaders who could validate some of these proof points at the end of the value chain, which in essence provides value opportunities throughout, right? So if we can prove that poultry producers can see value of ultra high protein, low oligosaccharide soybean meal, that opens up opportunities for crushers to crush premium meal and ultimately growers to generate premium on value added soybeans on the front end of the value chain.
So then what led to this study, and I guess just the idea of incorporating that into the diet of broilers? Because obviously, like you just mentioned, we are always looking for ways to add value not only to the livestock that we produce, but also the grains that go into feeding them.
Yeah, so there've been some previous studies on higher protein varieties and low oligosaccharides in particular. But in essence, what you're trying to do is you're trying to provide soybean meal to producers and nutritionists, if you will, that allows them to use maybe less soybean meal than they otherwise would use to hit the same nutritional targets. From an energy perspective, with low oligosaccharides, what you're doing is you're reducing that fraction and supplementing with sucrose. So, addition to leveraging protein for value, they're able to extract more energy or metabolizable energy from the meal itself. So, when we approached the study, we were really initially targeting cost reduction in full formulation, right? So nutritionists could use this meal as a lever to do that. But at the same time, we wanted to make sure that bird performance, so things like bird weights, FCRs, and things of that sort, still maintained. And what we actually saw was that by leveraging ultra high protein, low oligosaccharides soybean meal, these producers were able to, or in this instance, Purdue was able to significantly reduce their feed costs while at the same time improve their bird performance.
And then have we seen anything, maybe not specifically, but just in general, on how much value exactly we're adding to the soybeans that are going into this feed?
Yeah, so there's a total value calculation, and that's something that we work with our customer Purdue on, right? But what we're encouraged on is that there's enough value to incentivize that demand chain pull, right? So if you can establish that there's enough value at the producer level, it's plenty of value to incentivize the crusher and ultimately the grower. So really, that's critically important, and that's one of the main takeaways for us, and why we're incredibly encouraged about the results.
So then, Kurt, what's next in the process for kind of getting this maybe a little bit more widespread? What's the next step in this journey?
Yeah, so we'll be continuing to work with end producers, establishing that pool. Importantly, broilers is probably 1A. Turkeys, those are high priority, but ultimately we could see value in swine and other species. And as you know, we're expanding our maturity zones for our varieties. So we currently work very heavily in Iowa. We'll continue to do that, and we'll be working with poultry and turkey producers within the region, as well as outside of the region as we start to expand our scale.
All right, Kurt, lots of great information today. For those of our listeners, our farmer listeners especially, who would like to get in touch and learn more from Benson Hill, how can they do that?
Yeah, so they can contact us at bensonhillfarmers.com. They'll have all the relevant information to get in touch with the right people who are ready and excited to talk to them.
Kurt, thanks so much for taking the time to visit with us today, and good luck as you continue this study effort and kind of adding value to both the poultry producers and the soybean producers.
All right, thanks so much, Riley.
That again was Kurt Long, Vice President of Benson Hill. And that's all we have for today's episode of Ag Matters PM. Thanks again for tuning in. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on social media at X, LinkedIn, Facebook, and TikTok, and find our video content as well as previous episodes of AM/PM on our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos go live. Don't forget as well our free morning, midday, and closing market podcasts on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Mark Magnuson, Andy Peterson, and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.